areas. One is the growth, inflation, and the employment or employability, and that is a basic, problem area or the concern area for the people in any business. Now there is opportunity also. When I look at from the typical Indian context, I think India has an added advantage of two advantages. One is, to my mind, favorable demographic structure, population, and the kind of the nation we have. Number two, very fast pace of digital transformation. And I think with these two elements, Government of India in last at least 7-8 years has taken a very major initiative. Make in India is one of them. And now government is also promoting that. We have been hearing and talking about it, small scale, SME and MSME sectors. Now what is this happening, and where the HR can play a very important and critical role? So anything, whether it's an existing business, a large organization or incorporation, or a small business in a SME, MSME sector. Now the important area is that in all, whatever turbulence happens, there is the only key to success is the capability development, to my thinking. So skilling, reskilling, upskilling is the key to success, and there the HR people can play a very important role. You also talked about ambiguity, and in the previous conversation also we were talking about managing adversity. So what I have seen and experienced that generally in India, or it's not an Indian context, I mean globally we can vouch for it, that the ability to manage adversity is the challenge, and that is why we get scared if anything goes wrong. Let me tell you a very quick, interesting story. So एक पुराने समय में there was a guy, उस खेती करता था, उसके पास एक बैल था. बैल धीरे धीरे बूढ़ा हो गया, थोड़ा सा कमजोर हो गया, काम नहीं कर पाता. तो एक दिन खेत में जाते समय वहाँ पर गांव में एक कुआं था जिसका भी कोई इस्तेमाल नहीं था. बैल कुएं में गिर गया. इसका ही फैल के कुआं भी यूजलेस है, पानी नहीं है, बैल भी बूढ़ा सा होने जाता, खर्चा ज़्यादा होता था. तो ऐसा करो, एक डिपार्टमेंट और फंक्शन उसके एम्प्लॉय बंद कर दो. यही होता है ना ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, कि जहाँ पर भी प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं आ रही है उसको मैनेजमेंट का सबसे पहले थॉट होता है कि बंद कर दीजिए. ही कलेक्टेड ऑल द विलेजर्स एंड इसे के भाई देखो ये कुआं वहाँ बंद कर देते हैं. एवरीवन एग्री, दे कॉल्ड फॉर ए मिट्टी के जिसमें मिट्टी डालो एंड क्लोज इट. नाउ दैट इज द stage where the employee has to rethink and rebuild, and HR can play a very important role to reignite the capability and potential and attitude of the people. So what happened, ऊपर से जब मिट्टी डाल रहे थे, अब पहले तो बैल सोच रहा था कि मालिक ऊपर से बचाएगा, अब बॉस ने तो वैसे ही साइड में हो गया क्योंकि CEO का प्रेशर था उसके ऊपर. So what he has to do, what he did is, every time this dust was thrown in the well, he started shaking it. तो उसके पीठ पर जितनी मिट्टी आई, शेक किया, नीचे बैठी, उसके ऊपर आया, आते आते he could come out of the well. And I think that is the ability as an individual, every one of us must inculcate, must build upon, and the HR can play a very tremendous role. Sorry, I am taking too much of time. लेकिन एक 60 सेकेंड्स और. आज से शायद 30 साल पहले जो हमने अपने फोर फादर से सुना कि जब आदमी निकलता था घर से तो उसके स्टेटमेंट होती थी कि भाई किस लिए आए हो, कि रोटी कमाने आए हो. आई थिंक दैट कंसेप्ट इज रेलिवेंट टुडे एंड इट विल बी रेलिवेंट टुमारो. सो रोटी मीन्स रिस्पेक्ट, ओनरशिप, ट्रस्ट एंड इंटीग्रिटी. वो रोटी 30 साल पहले भी कमाई जाती थी, आज भी कमाई जाती है, आज से 30 साल बाद भी कमाई जाएगी. HR people, they are tremendous people with a right set of skill, capability and human touch. Emotional की आप बात कर रहे थे, तो I think that can be thought about and we can make a strategic plan to it.
Fantastic. So in your story, बैल कौन है? Employee है? HR तो नहीं है.
और शायद पुराना हो गया हमारे. This is only a story, but yes, this happened. This is a practical implication which we have seen.
Good. I think good story. So Shelly, my question to you is, this throwing the, this bell into the well and doing this mitti wala job, we do it all day long, right? Anytime there's a turbulence, we look for ways to cut costs. Now in this entire environment, are we overheating the entire system for the sake of something that we aspire to achieve? Or should the business be okay? That listen, I'm sustainable, I'm making profit. Do I need to exit every time and overheat the system? Or do you think that we should continue to rethink and reinvent?
Okay. So, yeah, I think overheating, now that's an interesting term, I would say. Just like, we had a previous discussion on recession and, we mentioned about the cyclical thing. So do we reach a point where overheating starts happening in the industry in any scenario? The answer is yes. We cannot, not face this situation because it's a human tendency, it's an industrial tendency. Whenever there is something which we are wanting to achieve, everybody starts moving towards that particular phenomena, goal, whatever we say. And when that happens, overheating stage, is quite inevitable. Now, the question that you asked, do we, what do we do? Do we rethink? Do we rejuvenate? Absolutely, I think that's just a no-brainer. We've been listening from the first panel to this, and everybody's talking about the reskilling and the, but let me, especially the audience here, and we have a mix of audience from the very budding professional, to the middle management professionals. There are a lot of words floating around the industry: rethink, rejuvenate, agile, resilience, transformation. How many of us do we really go down to understand the meaning of these words beyond the English? And one such word is agile. Super floated. Everybody talks agile. How many of you sitting here, and be candid about it, have you really gone ahead and looked up at the 12 principles or the values of Agile Manifesto? Why? Because, and that's exactly why the overheating happens, because we don't understand the concepts fully. We just run behind something. And okay, fine, maybe some of us here, sitting in the IT industry have some edge, to listen to these concepts, understand. But let me tell you, Agile is not just about being quick. Agile is not just about, being adaptive, the English connotation. It is much more beyond that, and I make this request to each one of you sitting here. You all have, easy access through the mobile with your Google. Search these 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto, and you will see so much relevance to whatever industry you belong, to whatever profession that you belong, even if it's not HR. So yes, Khalid, definitely no choice. Rethinking absolutely needs to happen, and we can avoid the overheating by connecting the dots, going a little beyond what the buzz is all about, bring method to the madness by going to the basics or the drawing board, as we always say.
So, in fact, the question that I was asking was more in terms of, we are the custodians of culture, right? Our job is to take care of human capital, while there is a perspective that we need to win the race. And you take any Formula 1 race, if you don't have enough pit stops, you will not win it, right? So are we actually creating pit stops, or we are just running because we just need to run because Michael Schumacher wants to be number one? And Michael Schumacher in this case is CEO.
Yeah, no, so absolutely we have to create the pause. For that matter, forget about the industry, the basic, individuals. We say meditation is something we are so talking about. I'm slightly, but I'm just trying to connect the dots. What is meditation all about? It's just about taking that pause. And today we're talking about meditation, not from that 1 hour meditation. It's about, mindfulness. 2 minutes before you enter a meeting, take a pause. So taking a pause, absolutely essential. And is the HR professional, let me not call it professional, is the HR enabling our leaders, delivery, everybody to take that pause? I think absolutely yes. Now, the problem is that this yes percentage is low. The percentage is low. So because there is no black and white answer, Khalid, so some of these. The percentage has to be more. So when the CEO puts a pressure, we are the ones who absolutely need to understand what the pressure is about. But hey, let's pause. So we are the ones who need to bring that pause. And absolutely.
Thank you so much. And that is required because at a certain point in time, our job is not just to make profits as an organization. And in some panels that we discussed, we spoke about sustainability and keep the business going and running. So you can only make your machinery run longer if you use it optimally. If you run your car at 120 every day, it will not gonna work for like 10 years. But if you optimally use it, it may give you more benefits. I think that's the rational, or that's the balance HR needs to create in the system, apart from sustaining business to grow further. Anil, I want to come back to you on the question and dovetailing on what she said. The speed is really fast in terms of all the changes that are happening. So do you believe that the importance of that culture that we used to talk about has taken a backseat? So we're like, okay, I'm going to be agile as a business, I'm going to pivot, but I'm not worried about what's happening on the ground.
No, we have seen in some organizations that they do not focus or give so much of importance to the culture because of the pressure, recession, or cutthroat competition, or there is a rat race for the business because CEO is responsible for P&L and he is also answerable to board or somebody, and then that pressure comes down. Whereas I believe that managers and leaders actually they must play a role of a shock absorber in the business. Culture or the business strategy has to go hand in hand in my thinking. As a part of the business strategy, you draw direction. What business strategy helps a business to give a direction. So it helps you not only to give a set of direction, it also helps you to guide that what kind of a roadmap the business should have, the task prioritization of task and activities, and well-informed decision making. So that is but unless we align this with the vision and mission, culture and value system of the business, unless we bring in that alignment of individual objectives, individual goals with the organization goals. For example, some employee may have a goal to buy a Maruti 800 car, or maybe to look for a 2-bedroom set apartment. That is a goal, let's say 4 to 5 years. How will it happen? Unless he will make a meaningful contribution to the business and prove himself. So if each and every employee will start doing their part of bit in order to make some footprint or leave some footprint to the business will grow, and in return the employee will also grow. So it cannot be separate goals for individual and their car. But how this can happen? Whether the culture and value, because culture is very simple. Culture could be a family culture, especially in Maharashtrians, that Maharashtrian family they'll leave their shoes outside their home. This is a culture, So in my thinking, the culture I define is any idea which is being practiced over a period of time becomes your habit, and that takes a shape of a culture. And this applies to organization. And when employees are aligned fully with this culture and value, the strategy, whether it's a people strategy or the business strategy, that becomes very simple to understand, implement and execute. So 4I principle again. So 4I principle is that you should have an intent, interest, initiative and implementation. And that applies to every individual. It begins with the CEO and an MD. And HR becomes an enabler and driver to cascade this kind of a culture and value down the line.
And just to build on it, do you think HR is doing a good job of it at this point in time? Honest reply.
I don't think so. Yes, I am part of HR because I think 15, 16 years back, those people who know me like Viney and a couple other friends, they know that I renamed the HR. So HRD, which we will know, Human Resource Development, in my thinking, this is HRD, heart-to-heart relationship development. And only role which comes to my mind for HR is creating wow employee experience from welfare to farewell. right? Okay.
That's a good one. And you know, the role of, as you rightly said, the culture needs to be aligned with what we want to do. So some of the organizations, I was watching a video the other day about Amara Raja, and they have these, you know, beautiful 5 values. Almost every organization has beautiful values, and most of them are pasted on the wall. So what they have done is they have created uniforms based on those values. So anybody can pick any uniform any day, and it is expected that they probably be reminded to display that behavior in the organization. And I found that to be very enlightening, because a lot of time we also create those values, we put it on the PPT, we put it on the wall, we do a lot of doldrums about it, but at the end of the day nobody translates it back to the behavior, which is the most important part. Same thing with employee engagement, and let me just, Shraddha, ask you this question. So our culture is one part of it. The other part, why we build all of these things and create the framework, is to engage employees, which is to be aligned with the vision that you're talking about. Has this become a responsibility of a department that you are supposed to engage people, wherein engagement was, the entire village was supposed to be engaged? So do you see the dichotomy here, that we want everybody to be happy, but the only people who are supposed to make everybody happy are these set of 10 people?
Great. I think great question. As I think going back to a little bit of basics, engagement has been kind of been one big time abusively used word, especially in the last couple of years. But I think principally what I believe is engagement. The quotient has to be to engage and not just gauge the pulse of people, right? And to what you said, not just doing rangolis or doing cultural festivities, it's way beyond that. It's way beyond adding as a strategic imperative for the organization. That's where I feel, principally going to the definition of engagement. Now, given, I surely feel it's a strategic imperative. It takes a village to do that, and an entire ecosystem has to be participating to do it, right? I think I'll kind of talk about this with an example from my organization only. We've seen a rapid growth, what GlobalLogic is known for. We recently got acquired by by Hitachi, and we are now a part of a 90 billion organization, ourselves being valued at about 10 billion, right? That's kind, and being in a fast-paced organization, I've always felt, believed, and that to treat your employees not as head count, but as heart count, exactly to Anil what you said. That's where I believed, and then for an organization creating such next-gen people practices. Engagement means, or success means, different things to different people. Like I said previously, we are dealing with a bunch of millennials. They're changing the rules of the game. And the way the touch points they want is extremely different from when I was there, or a couple of us were there. We had, engagement was different at that point of time. So I think if you have that mindset of heart to heart, or treating your employees as your heart count, you can definitely create those kind of practices, that kind of an ecosystem where everybody has to come together. And I think the focus would be what Anil you said. I would like to add to that. The focus would be on talent, leadership, and culture. These 3 things are going to be important, and it cannot be just HR organization. Principally, I don't believe in HR. The word HR, you've seen, I'm coined as people. We call our organization as people development. So that's the focus, and if you focus on these 3 parts, which is talent, leadership, and culture, we'll have to go back, and the ecosystem will have to say, how we create, accelerate careers for our people. The gens we are working with, they've got a very different connotation for their careers. They don't believe in a 9-to-5 job. They want to accelerate their careers. They might also want to pursue their hobbies, which they might like to take as a career. So how you create an ecosystem where you will accelerate careers, and how you will enable that within the organization, I feel one. Second, importantly, since we are talking about engagement, right, an attitude for gratitude, right, recognition. How you recognize an extra mile behavior, how you recognize top talent, probably how you recognize that non-work related potential of an employee, right? He or she could be a guitarist, a marathon runner. How you celebrate that? For example, in our organization, and soon you all will see in media also, we do a program called the League Extraordinaire. That's like the Oscars of Global Logic, where we not only recognize our employees, but we also recognize their families, who are the backbone of our people. So that's about recognition. Third, I feel, especially, with, again, I'm kind of pressing hard on the gens that we are dealing with, because we are talking about the future of tomorrow, right? Is how we create a culture of inclusion and care. And that does not come just by HR. It has to be, again, a village doing it. How we have people being involved more into the decision making. How you create probably employee councils, management councils, how you get people to contribute to the organization. How you respect cognitive diversity, not just talking about DEI as a parameter, having women percentage, how you respect and create cognitive diversity. Fourth, I would say we cannot overemphasize on communication. We spoke about heart to heart, we spoke about heart count, and I principally believe if we are not listening or not talking to your heart count or to your people, I think we've missed the heartbeat. And that's where it leads to non-engagement or attrition, etc., etc. Last but not the least, we need to invest in I would say organization scale up, or I would say leadership scale up. I think we need to create, and we are investing a lot in creating future leaders who would have employees rally around a purpose. So I think if I were to just sum it in talent, leadership and culture, hope that Khalid answers your point that it's not just HR, it has to be a culture, a village driving employee engagement, and is not just related to the cultural activities, but it's a larger shared goal within the organization.
Interesting. And मुझे ऐसा भी लगता है कि we have actually spoiled a lot of employees. I remember I was very happy with Bay Decoration when I started working. Very happy, and then pizza. Super engaged employees, but I think now Gen Zs and millennials and whatever terminologies that we use, at the end of the day we're kind of making princes and princesses in offices. But coming back to the point where you said it's a shared responsibility, is a shared responsibility, but when we actually go to the boardroom, and Dimple, my question is to you, and you bring a lot of diverse experience. When we go to the boardroom with business, do we actually get the seat at the table, or we're just there because there is a function that needs to be there, or are we doing justice to it?
Khalid, thank you so much. Very nice question. I think as we all have already said, HR role is evolving. So, we have moved from payroll, salary, recruitment and admin kind of job to now, more of HR business partnering, strategic HR business partnering role. And if you see today, we are focusing more on important things like culture building for the company, talent development, or organization transformations. If you see in the COVID times, the tough, unprecedented times, we as HR, we have already proved our worth. Everybody was confused where to go. It was the HR leaders who actually navigated everyone to the right direction. And I think the word empathy, which I learned in defense, I heard it again during the COVID, and which came from the HR leaders. So yes, things are changing. Coming to HR business partnering kind of a role, I think most of the organization. So we all have this HR business role where the HR is working very closely with the business leaders. So they are even helping them setting up the goals and also the strategic planning to achieve those goals. In my company, HR business partner, we even sit in the sales review meetings, all technology meetings, innovation meetings. So I think now the role is no more the personal management, it is more of a people management role. Everywhere you will find, even we are doing the branding for our organization, it's not only marketing department job. So, I think we are in the right direction. As Anil also said, we have not reached exactly at the destination, but we will reach there. And how to achieve that, you asked. First of all, I think very important for the HR people is to know where the top line and the bottom line is coming from. So we need to know our, products very well. Then, as you said, heart-to-heart talk, power of human connection. We should never ever forget this. And then coming to ourselves, we need to always keep reinventing ourselves. Very important to reskill. We talked about upskilling. One thing I think which is more than this, which is important, is unlearning. Unlearning is very important because we can only move in the right direction when we are actually shedding those things which are no more important to us. So these are, I think, few things where we can actually have this seat. We already have, but yes, it's a journey, I think.
Yeah, just to add one point, and I won't take more than 40 seconds. So I think a lot of times we struggle with this jargon of earning a seat on the table. I think the contributions have to be such that you are there, number one. Number two, the contributions have to be that compelling that if you just pull a chair and be on that table, right? That's how you should be that change maker. HR needs to be that change maker. And as Dimple rightly said, about the top line, bottom line, one word, impact. If we start creating that
I think nobody would have expected us to survive the way we did, and organizations rebounded, right? At a point in time, nobody knew what's going to happen, right? Your talent acquisition, for example, it was happening in office, people are meeting, and suddenly there is a stop, but your business has to run. You're learning, there were classroom sessions happening, and suddenly everything stopped, nobody's going to office. Mr. Negi's organization has decided to never go to office, right? My question to you is, has HR been able to leverage a lot of technology in their own processes to become more efficient and enabling to the business?
So, COVID gave us a lot of pain, but it gave us a lot of learning. We talked about recession. I would say correction. Everything which goes up, it can't keep going up every time. It has to stabilize at some point in time. With COVID came a lot of new terms we started looking at. Moonlighting. Who heard of it, moonlighting, before? I don't know who termed it. Somebody would have thought of it, what to name it, moonlighting, right? I don't know, it's not announced yet who named it, is it? So, then we heard, okay, so then we had problems with people performance. While you can't evaluate people sitting remotely thousands of kilometers away, that what that person is working right now or not working. Now, how are you going to empower people, right? If you make them realize that what they do is a value added to them as well as to the organization, then yes. That is where a lot of technology intervention started coming in, while few companies started putting timer thing, right? Now, how you use that timer? It's not a nursery kid that you would want to time. Right? It's not school, right? So we also have on our systems, but my team is here, right? So I got 5 people from my team. I don't ask them what is your system ours. No need to. They know what they have to do. Then why to chase them? And coming to the question how it evolved, yes, a lot of technology interventions came in, a lot of processes got evolved. Just look at simple example, any organization or big organization of size like ours, we have multiple generations working with us. You can't have a single rule that you will treat Gen Z same way when we started our careers. Our thought process was very different. we looked at more of value perspective, and today's generation looks at more of freedom perspective. It's not that they don't want to work, but they want that freedom to think, right? And that is where we have to guide them that how they will move up in their career along with the skill, along with the learning. So people say, okay, career growth is money growth, right? But it has multiple factors. So when you say you are overall growing, it is you are growing in your career, your learning, your scope, your team size, it's not vertical, it's horizontal growth also. And then money will become a byproduct of it. And that is where I think a lot of this level of guidance that is required, right? I've been visiting colleges for last 5 years, and we come here also. COVID batch, we like it or not, we know it has been a problem, and I'm sure academia will agree to it that what has happened. CGPA was not achieved, it was managed. Okay, so that is where I think we as an HR, for an organization, we have evolved to create those processes, not to put a hard line to it, but how to balance between giving them freedom as well as making sure that they are not crossing the boundaries. So I think it is a crazy mix happened, right? And HR will keep evolving. It's not going to stop.
So Anil, I'm gonna ask you to reflect on this question. Are we really good at reacting, or are we really good at being responsive and being ahead of the curve as HR function? Because we all managed COVID really well, reacted to it.
Initially, it was impulsive reaction by everyone. The reason was very simple. क्या होता है ना कि हिंदुस्तान में हम लोग इस तरह की बात काफ़ी करते हैं कि भाई पड़ोस के घर में अगर आग लगी है तो अपना घर सेफ है, पहला थॉट वो आता है. I remember somewhere in November 2019 when COVID word came into the air from China, and all of us might have read that word in the newspaper or might have heard in a media, other media channels, but nobody took it very seriously. दिसंबर 19 की फिर बात थी, तभी कुछ वायरस, पहले नवंबर में कुछ वायरस की बात हुई, फिर COVID-19 came in December. And by the time January came in and some movement happened in China, we were very relaxed. February कुछ सुगवागाट हुई और मार्च में जाके थोड़ा सा ये लगा कि अब सर पर कुछ हो गया. And when this lockdown was announced, it was a big surprise. We were not aware what is going to happen and what is the lockdown, कि जिंदगी होगी क्या. लेकिन इनिशियल 3-4 हफ्तों में हर इंसान को बता दिया कि लॉकडाउन का मतलब क्या और कोविड का मतलब क्या. And initially there was a pressure from the business because the boardroom were worried about their P&L, and the pressure started building on every function, and therefore there was no clue. All of us, we were clueless. ये नहीं पता था कि work from home का मतलब क्या है. So work from home initially a vacation, sitting at home, enjoying with family. बड़ा मस्ती आ रही थी कि लोगों की किचन में सारे एक्सपेरिमेंट हुए, केक से लेकर और जो भी बन सकता था वो बने, वाइफ्स एंड हस्बैंड सभी लोगों ने बनाया. लेकिन धीरे धीरे वो सिचुएशन एक तरह से टर्मोइल में तब्दील हुई, और वहाँ पर मुझे लगता है कि एचआर का बहुत अच्छा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल था. इफ़ आई टेल यू स्मॉल थिंग, यू नो व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू वर्क फॉर ऑटोमोटिव कंपनी इन दोज डेज, and after having initial experiences, we thought that probably this is not going to help us as a business. So the idea was to start touching the people and their families. अब किसी एम्प्लॉय का एक कमरे का घर है या 2 कमरे का घर है, वीडियो कॉल पर बैठे हुए हैं, पीछे से बच्चे जा रहे हैं, माँ बाप हैं, बॉस उसके ऊपर चिल्ला रहा है कि यार तुम्हारे को तमीज़ नहीं है मीटिंग अटेंड करने के लिए. क्या करें वो? अपने पेरेंट्स को कहीं बाहर भेज दें कोविड में, राइट? सो वी स्टार्ट टचिंग and educating managers first. अभी हम लोग कल्चर चेंज की बात कर रहे थे. कल्चर ऐसे नहीं बदलता. कल्चर, परफॉर्मेंस एंड गोल्स, it has to be come from top down. But performance and results, it is always bottom up. So educating the leaders, educating people who are responsible, and who claim themselves to be a leader is very important. I spent a majority of my career in the automotive industry. तो एक example देते हैं आपको. Time interesting है थोड़ा सा. Bear with me. किसी भी ऑटोमोटिव इंजन में एक किसी भी अच्छी सी आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत अच्छी है, आप सबके पास अच्छी आदत कार होगी विद ऑल द बेस्ट फीचर्स, करीब 7 से 8 हज़ार कंपोनेंट लगते हैं. ये नंबर बढ़ भी सकता है डिपेंडिंग ऑन द सीसी. आपको लगता है कि अगर कोई ब्रांडेड कंपनी, यू कैन नेम एनी कंपनी, टोयोटा, टेस्ला, BMW, सपोज दे हैव प्रोड्यूस्ड अ वंडरफुल इंजन with best of the quality of components, will it work? So ऐसे हुआ, एक कंपनी ने बहुत अच्छा आजाद इंजन बनाया with best of the technology, best fuel mileage, but the engine did not work. क्योंकि उसमें इंजीनियरिंग डिपार्टमेंट, सप्लाई चेन और मार्केटिंग, सेल्स, बिजनेस डेवलपमेंट, कॉस्टिंग सारे आ गए थे, but it didn't work unless it was lubricated, and that is the HR. तो किसी भी बेस्ट इंजन में जब तक आप उसको लुब्रिकेट नहीं करेंगे, एंड लुब्रिकेट टच द हार्ट ऑफ ईच एंड एवरी कंपोनेंट, बिग एंड स्मॉल, ऑफ दैट इंजन, एंड देन ओनली इट विल स्टार्ट वर्किंग, राइट? एंड देयरफोर in this troubled time, whether we talk of recession or COVID or something else may come in future, be ready. And if HR does not mean, my colleague very rightly talked about that it is not responsibility of only HR, it is responsibility of the entire village to touch the heart of the people and look at. For leaders, two important responsibility in my thinking. बाकी तो किताबें आप सब लोग पढ़ सकते हो, गूगल बाबा जिंदाबाद. दो चीजें हैं for every leader, and which I am trying to helping everyone with my colleagues in my businesses. First is what kind of an organization they want to leave for future or future generation. That is the responsibility they have to think about. And second, how they would like to be remembered when they are not there. If they get answer to these questions, I think ये सारा जो debate discussion हो रहा है उसका solution मिल सकता है. That is my view. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I've been given a nudge that we're too engaged in our conversation. We have left that track of time. So I want to see if there is a question in the from the participants. Anybody want to ask a question? But it is important what you said, that HR is the lubricant or the glue which keeps everything together. And we can't be essential to a machinery if the machinery is not correct. Right, so you can have the best of HR, but if the machinery is not correct, the best of lubricants, it will not work. So I think it's a combination that needs to be there. Any questions from panelists? Yes, there's one. We'll just take two and really quick answers.
Hi, good afternoon panelists. I think fantastic discussion, lot of learning. पहला क्वेश्चन अनिल जी के लिए है. अनिल जी जरा वो रोटी की अगर फुल फॉर्म एक बार वापस बता दें.
सवाल ये क्यूरोसिटी है.
हाँ जी.
तो रोटी का बात होती थी ना, यहाँ से शुरू हुई थी कि भाई आज से हमारे बुजुर्गों ने बताया था कि वो जब निकले थे घर से, इवन माय फादर ही से कि भाई रोटी कमाने जा रहे हैं. तो रोटी इज अ रिस्पेक्ट, दैट यू हैव टू अर्न द रिस्पेक्ट. यू हैव टू आल्सो डिस्प्ले द ओनरशिप ऑफ एवरीथिंग. Your behavior, conduct, trust, and integrity.
Okay.
Even today is relevant, tomorrow it will be relevant. So ultimately, all of us, we are struggling, and we are trying to earn roti.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And just a small one for all the panelists, because you are leading great organizations. How much do you think that reading, going through social media, using a lot of let's say business lingos or jargons, or reading a lot of philosophers and all, that helps you in your work or interacting with people, or practical lessons from your dealing with employees, that helps you more, or it's like 50-50, or if you want to give a percentage sort of thing?
So, social media, it is like sometimes it's a brainwash. So we have to be very cautious what we want to read and what we want to absorb out of it. We see lot of comments. Manager is bad. Have we seen any manager writing on social media that my team member is bad? No. So that is where we have to be very cautious what perceptions we are going to make out of social media. I'm not saying reading is bad, it's good, because humanly it's not possible. The problem today is that we are not using technology in a right way. Technology is supposed to be giving us scalability, flexibility, right, to read whatever time we want to read. When you say meeting people, yes, it gives a different level of connect, the understanding is much better. Just imagine this session is happening online. How many of you would have been actually listening, or how many of you would have been doing multitasking at the same time? Even I know lunch, people are waiting. If you would have been online, you would have been eating lunch by now already, right? So that is where it is very important to balance it out, because when you meet people, you learn a lot of things, you learn basic behavior, interaction, right? But social media, what they post, or what you see on social media, reading comments or reading their viewpoints, everybody has a different viewpoint. You should be the better judge to decide whether it's right or not. Just don't go blindly with what it is written, and balance it out between both perspectives of in-person as well as virtual.
I think just focus on learning wherever it comes from, whether it's social media, whether it's an interaction, whether you're traveling on a metro, whosoever you meet. You should be selfish about what you want to learn. And then avenues are open. If you wait for avenues to be open to you by somebody, whether it's the organization or parents or academia, then you're doing disservice to yourself. Okay.
Choose the correct social media. I think LinkedIn.
LinkedIn choose karlo is what?
Yeah. So choose the correct social media, LinkedIn. And networking is really network. What they say is true. And I think we all are connected in the LinkedIn, and there is so much. So, and reading habit, if you talk not about the only reading from the YouTube and all, you read books. You get so much of just go and read the autobiography. So I do that. I love reading, and I always put a goal of reading 10 to 12 books in a year. It really helps.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the panelists. Back to you.
I would like to extend my gratitude to our panelists for presenting such a fresh perspective on HR roles and strategies. Now, I would like to request Manju Khatri ma'am to felicitate Mr. Khalid Raza with memento and gifts. I would request Manju Khatri ma'am to felicitate Mr. Anil Gaur. I would request Anil Khatri sir to felicitate Mr. Ashish Bhalla sir. I would request Anil Khatri sir to felicitate Ms. Shelly Purohit. I would request Dr. Vikas Tripathi sir to felicitate Sequan leader Dimple Rawat ma'am. I would request Dr. Vikas Tripathi sir to felicitate Shraddha Dave Nagar ma'am. Now it's time for a group photograph.